Amigos de Macabro, sean todos ustedes bienvenidos a una entrevista más. Recuerden seguirnos en todas nuestras redes para estar al pendiente de todos los videos que hemos estado subiendo, y el día de hoy tengo casa llena. Me acompaña parte de la producción, dirección e incluso estrella de una de las películas que está compitiendo dentro de nuestra selección de largometraje internacional y que van a poder ver ustedes en Cineteca Nacional y en plataforma Cine a través de streaming. Sin más, voy a darle la bienvenida a todos aquellos responsables de la película Bloodshot Heart. De entrada, a mi lado izquierdo me acompaña el productor y la estrella, el protagonista de la película, Richard James Allen. Hi, Richard, how are you?
Hello, how are you? Hello, everyone.
Me acompaña también Martin Thorne, productor de la película. Hi, Martin.
Hey, hi.
Y finalmente me acompaña el director de Bloodshot Heart, Parish Malfitano. I hope I pronounced right your name, and if not, I'm terribly sorry.
No, that's correct.
Well, guys, thank you very much for taking my call. Pues primero lo que les voy a preguntar es para todos aquellos que todavía no se animan a ver Bloodshot Heart por alguna razón extraña. Pues sí, ¿de qué trata la película? Es un thriller muy interesante, muy influenciado por el cine giallo de los años 70. Seguramente Parish nos contará un poco acerca de las influencias que tuvo y sobre todo es una película que juega mucho con percepciones, qué es realidad, qué es fantasía. Now, for everyone who wants to answer this one first, I believe Parish is maybe the most indicated person to answer this. For the audience who haven't seen Bloodshot Heart yet, can you tell us more about it? Because as I just mentioned, it's a very interesting thriller with certain Italian giallo 70s influences that I could see in some parts. Can you tell me about the film?
Well, I think, it started with wanting to kind of merge, art house and B-grade sensibilities, and to tell, and to make like this drama thriller that was very much influenced by like a lot of Italian and American cinema of the 60s and 70s. And, that was for me, like the starting point for the story. And, and that's kind of, we wanted to create something that was very pulpy and that was like entertaining, but still artful. And probably Richard or Marty could add to that.
Well, I think I think we wanted to make a film that really was both emotional and dramatic and exciting and sort of fun and strange and a little dangerous and quite a lot of things. So it's quite a witch's brew, I think, this film.
Right. Un poco de lo que Parish nos dice es que sí, está influenciado mucho por el cine italiano y estadounidense de los años 70, pero a la vez quería influenciarlo con este toque australiano, y Richard complementa querían hacer algo emocionante, algo divertido y que a la vez fuera extraño. Algo que también menciona Parish es que sí es como una mezcolanza de varios géneros que él quería unir dentro de la misma película. Y ahora, como les había comentado al principio, mucho de lo que juega Bloodshot Heart es realidad y fantasía. Y lo que le voy a preguntar ahora es acerca de gran parte de la película. En realidad deben saber, se desarrollan muchas secuencias de fantasía. Vamos a preguntarle acerca de ellas. Parish, many of the sequences included in Bloodshot Heart deal with an alternate reality that the character by Richard must face all the time, with especially with this obsession. But how do you know when maybe it's too many fantasy sequences, when it's the right timing to move forward with what's going on the real world?
Yeah, I think that's something that in post-production during the edit, we really kind of decided how, you know, what do we want to communicate to the audience? What do we want to hold back? And we kind of made the decision that we should just allow to kind of get rid of the defining moments when you know it's reality and unreality, and to allow those two, the unreality and reality to merge, which can be a confusing thing for the audience, but also it places you into Hans's state of mind. And I wanted to create like a dream-like reality. For me, you know, dreams kind of, they occupy the same places as memory, in the sense that once you know, a dream occurs, it's kind of like a memory in your head. And so a memory and dreams are kind of like two correlating things, and a relationship that I wanted to kind of establish in the film. But that was something, yeah, we really all together really figured out in the edit, and that was kind of a long process.
How much did it took you to edit the film?
Richard Martin, do you know how long actually the process was?
Well, it took about a year of on and off, just taking our time, working. Our editor was based in another city, so we're working remotely. But yeah, that gave us time to experiment.
Cool. Algo que menciona Parish es que todo se terminó resolviendo en la postproducción, en el momento en el que ellos podían ver un poco qué funcionaba para la historia, de qué manera ya se podía dividir un poco entre qué era lo real y qué era lo irreal, porque aparte el personaje juega mucho, no solo con la fantasía, sino que esta misma fantasía asemeja los recuerdos de lo que el personaje vivió y atravesó en ciertos momentos. Nos comenta que fue un proceso de edición muy largo. Martín añada que aproximadamente tardaron un año, porque también el editor se encontraba en otra ciudad. If I'm not wrong, all of you are in Sydney, right?
Yeah, us three, yeah.
And your editor in which city was?
So Melbourne is, you know, a day away in travel.
Okay. Bueno, todos ellos se encuentran en Sydney y el editor se encontraba en Melbourne, lo cual es un viaje de todo un día. Now, my next question goes directly to Richard, because I found your character very, very interesting. And behind the scenes, before we started recording, I told you it was nice to finally see you and not see a disturbing character on the screen, which I thought it was amazing. Can you tell me about how much did it took you to prepare this character? And also, did you have any experience of obsession that might have helped you in the development of the character?
Oh, great questions. Well, look, you know, it was a long process working on this character, starting with Parish on the proof of concept. We did a short version to sort of test out the idea. And I think right away, I could see that this was a wonderful acting opportunity, because, you know, a lot of the time, you know, a character might have one change or two changes but this character goes through an enormous journey. So to me, this was a wonderful sort of literally technical acting exercise, an opportunity to sort of bring humanity to someone who's very, very layered and very, very complex. And I guess, you know, it was a sort of a process that traveled through in terms of trying to understand the character and then understand the relationship with the other characters and the whole journey. So yeah, I guess we used many, many different techniques. And I also think that a character like this is constructed also by the whole team, because you know, it's constructed by design, by camera work, by editing, and by sound and by music, as well as by acting. And I think that's really important. It's not just like an actor on the, you know, on a blank stage. It's a really, everybody in a film is part of a deeply immersive collaboration. And I'd say that was very exciting. As to whether I've had obsession, I can't go into my personal life.
Okay.
He is an obsessive personality.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But maybe Martin can tell us something that might happen on set that show this obsessive side.
Oh, I guess it was the way Richard would get into character and get into the zone of the Richard is very much into yoga and meditation, and I remember Richard's got this sort of theory on acting about yoga and being in the space, the mental space. So quite often he would be in a different zone.
Yeah. I think what Martin's saying is, yeah, I mean, it took some sort of dedication to go to those different places, and that was kind of, you couldn't do that lightly. You had to really take that seriously. But that was what was so exciting. Sure. What do you think, Parrish?
I think, filmmaking, it's all an obsession. So everyone on set is obsessing, in some sort of way, and you kind of create a community of people focusing on the one central story, and you're working towards that. So, I think it was about creating that bubble, and then Richard was able to become that character within a community of people working towards that one central kind of idea,
Right. Ok, mucho que de contarles. Primero que nada, le preguntaba a Richard acerca de la construcción de su personaje. Como le repito, es un personaje obsesivo acerca tanto de una relación de una chica que se muda a su casa, como con la relación que lleva con su madre. Y le pregunto también si llegó a tener un poco de experiencia personal que lo inspiró para crear a este personaje. Richard me comenta que en realidad la construcción del personaje vino de parte de todo el equipo. No solamente se trata de tener a un actor en un set vacío, sino que mucho ayuda el diseño sonoro, el diseño de iluminación, la misma fotografía. Y pues fue un proceso muy largo para él construirlo. De hecho, me comentan que primero hicieron una versión corta, tanto Richard como Parrish, para ver qué cosas funcionaban, qué cosas podían llevarse a largometraje. Y ya después desarrollarlo por completo. Y me comenta que así en lo personal prefiere no hablar como demasiado, pero Martin dice que tiene en efecto una personalidad un poco obsesiva por cómo se comportaba en el set, y le pregunté algún recuerdo, alguna anécdota que tengas al respecto. Y menciona que Richard practica yoga en realidad, que siempre para meterse dentro del personaje tiene como su propia zona, su propio espacio para desarrollarlo y poder encarnarlo como se debe. Y finalmente, Parrish nos añade un poco de que sí, gran parte de todo el desarrollo del filme toma a Richard como este personaje central, este eje que los ayuda a moverse y a entregar este resultado final. Ahora, otra pregunta que les voy a hacer, otro de los personajes importantes dentro de la película es la música, incluso más allá de los actores. Vamos a preguntar un poco al respecto. Parrish, besides the actors, the characters, to me, the other very important character that we had on the film was the music and the sound design that you prepare for it. Especially not only the character of the girl, which is a musician, but also I remember this sequence where he's teaching her to drive, and it's almost like 5 minutes with no dialogue, but very specific sounds, very specific music. If you can tell us everything that we should know about how to prepare this very meticulous sound design in the production.
Well, I tried to look at like the score, which we had like a wonderful female composer, Ola Turkovic, who is actually based in Poland, and she came on board the film before we even started filming, and she was like working and, you know, creating a score based on just the screenplay. And how I always tried to look at the score and the sound design was to treat score as like critiquing what we're seeing, you know, from an emotional perspective, in terms of the scenes, and the sound design was supposed to get us into Hans's state of mind as much as possible. So by having by the sound design doing an opposite thing to the music, for me, it meant that there was a greater distinction between the two that makes it less, I guess, confusing for the audience when they're watching it. And the sound design was a way, I guess, to just get us into Hans' state of mind as much as possible, and for us to, in some way, even though he does very destructive and things that are morally wrong, we are maybe able to at least associate those things with him because we're able to get into his head as much as possible. Yeah.
Nice. Le pregunto acerca del diseño sonoro y de la música como personajes dentro de Bloodshot Heart, y él menciona que sí, justamente él era una de las cosas que más le preocupaba, sobre todo el diseño sonoro y diferenciar el diseño sonoro y la música compuesta por una compositora polaca llamada Ola, espero pronunciar bien su apellido, Torkiewicz,
I think.
Torkiewicz, ok. Ola Torkiewicz, la compositora, quien hizo toda la música sin ver una escena, la comenzó a partir del mismo guión. Y justo lo que él quiere es, primero con el diseño sonoro, llevarte a la mente dentro de Hans y que sea totalmente lo opuesto a lo que la música esté reflejando en estos momentos. Cuando vean la película, notarán, por ejemplo, cómo es la música de la chica que entra a mudarse a la casa de él, y cómo es muy diferente en realidad a lo que él está pasando, a su lado muy destructivo, que es lo que precisamente es lo que retrata un poco el diseño sonoro. Now, my next question goes to Martin, because I want to know his perception as a producer. Some people might find frustrating, for example, certain twists and endings that end up as an illusion or fantasy, but how to manage to avoid falling into the most common places?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's one of my pet hates in any film, is to be too predictable and knowing what's going to happen before it happens. And that's one thing that's what attracted me to the story in the first place, is reading the screenplay and working on the screenplay together. It was going in areas that you couldn't predict, and we wanted to continue that. Basically in the editing really is to play around with ideas and with the pacing and the little sort of subplots, but we didn't want to give everything away. And I haven't got a problem personally with not knowing everything, you know. I'd rather have people wanting more at the end of the film and going away and talking about it than having it all out there, you know. So that's what I like about most films, and that's what attracted me to working on this one.
Le pregunto a Martin acerca de mucha gente se siente a veces frustrada por las películas que a veces son los giros y los finales terminan siendo un sueño, una fantasía, pero cómo evitar caer en los lugares comunes que vuelvan predecible a la trama. Y Martin me comenta que sí, es la labor más difícil para él como productor, porque de entrada a él le encantó este guión, porque a él le da la sensación de que al público se va a quedar con ganas de más, de ver más, de conocer más acerca de estos personajes, de saber qué está pasando en la historia, de intrigarse, por así decirlo, y de dejarse sorprender por lo que está pasando en pantalla. Ahora voy a tener una pregunta para Richard. La siguiente, el personaje lleva dos relaciones muy específicas. La primera con su madre y la segunda con esta mujer que va a vivir a la casa, pero ambas conllevan distintos niveles de obsesión, distintos niveles masoquistas hasta cierto punto, pero ¿cuál fue el más difícil de llevar para él? Richard, your character has two main relationships on the film. The first one with the mother and the other one with the girl who's moving to the house. Both of them very different in certain aspects of obsession, and if you want to see it, some way of masochism. For you, which one of these relations was most difficult to develop?
That's a really interesting question. I think that they were very, very different, and the actors, both super talented actors, have also different approaches to acting. So, you know, it was really kind of working with each one to find the way we could collaborate, I guess. I think in a way, the processes we worked on, there was sort of a lot more communication with the mother. And I think that related to the fact that we had a very, very deep entwined relationship, and there was less communication with the girl. And that sort of was appropriate because we had a not real relationship. It was a kind of a projection. So, you know, we worked together in different ways, but of course with each of them. But I think, yeah, I think they're really fascinating when you think about it. I mean, is either of them a genuine relationship or real? They're so, well, whatever else you could say, they're very complicated relationships, and whether they're based on reality or fantasy or projection or confusion or aspiration. I guess that's what's interesting, because they show how complex our relationships with people actually are.
Right. Richard me responde que sí, en efecto, son dos relaciones completamente distintas, pero que definitivamente con la chica es un poco más complicado por el hecho de que en realidad no llevan una relación como tal, sino que todo es una proyección que incluso puede caer en el tema de aspiración, de hacia dónde va, hacia dónde puede llegar. Y con la madre es muy difícil porque es una persona con la que ha pasado toda su vida y parece que seguirá ahí hasta el final, y ya verán en la película hacia dónde se dirige. Now, guys, for one last question, I want to know, after Bloodshot Heart, are you currently working on a new horror project? What are you having in your hands right now?
I'm working on a horror film currently. So another one, something that's a bit more specific, like within that genre. So I'm like trying to develop that as much as possible. So hopefully, you know, that will work out. Yeah.
And then Richard and I are collaborating on something else as well. You want to tell them, Richard?
Oh, well, I won't say too much about it. It isn't really horror, but it is a genre piece, and it involves love and spirituality, and it's a bit scary as well.
That combination might result deadly.
Could be. This is a bit of a shameless plug, but I'm just going to tell you that my novel just came out.
It's out of focus.
Yeah, if you could focus it better. Yeah.
There you go. So, sorry, shameless plug, but you call More Lies. You can get it anywhere. It's a pretty wild story, and just thought I'd share that because it's going to be a while before the next film comes out. Where, you know, we're all in development and script writing, but you know, that's something people can just order today.
What is your novel about?
My novel is about it starts with a writer who is held hostage in their apartment in New York City by a femme fatale and a gangster, and he's being forced to write because they think he knows the secrets of where the Spanish gold has been buried, and it just
Wow.
goes off from there. It's a kind of it's a comedy thriller, very creative, very imaginative, a little bit wild.
Man, sounds amazing.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to translate. Les pregunto cuáles son los siguientes proyectos ya después de Bloodshot Heart. Parish nos comenta que ya se encuentra desarrollando una nueva película de terror. Espera ya comenzar a escribirla pronto. Martin y Richard también se encuentran trabajando en un proyecto juntos, del cual ahorita no hay como muchos datos todavía, pero que es una mezcla de amor y espiritualidad, una combinación bastante loca por ahí. Y Richard nos presume su novela que acaba de estrenar, la cual es la historia acerca de un hombre que es mantenido como un rehén en Nueva York por un gángster. Y bueno, al final tiene que ver un poco la trama con oro español que se encuentra oculto. Richard, can you show me once again the title of your novel?
Sure, it's called More Lies.
More Lies. Ahí ya
More
pueden checarla. Ahí búsquenla en Google para que tengan más información. Muchas gracias a todos los que vieron esta entrevista. Recuerden ver Bloodshot Heart en Cineteca y en plataforma Cine. Guys, thank you very much once again.
Thank you so much for having us on the festival as well as the conversation.
Yeah, man, thank you. And yo fui Mario. Muchas gracias a Richard, a Martin y a Parish por pasarse a este video. Y gracias a ustedes por ver esta entrevista. Hasta la próxima.